Proverbs 6, 6 through 11. Go to the ant, you lazy person. Observe its ways and grow wise. The ant has no commander, officer, or ruler. Even so, it gets its food in summer, gathers its provisions at harvest. How long, lazy person, will you lie down? When will you rise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the arms to lie down. And poverty will come on you like a prowler, destitution like a warrior. On Wednesday evening, we finished up our last session of our second offering of the Financial Peace University. And this is Dave Ramsey's course that's designed to help people get a grip on their financial situation, not just to get a grip on it, but to really get on top of your finances. And we're committed to offering it on an ongoing basis. And we are going to be offering it again in the fall, except this time we hope to be offering it on the Gila River Indian Reservation, our neighbors to the south and to the west. We had a couple from the reservation that were in our class last time, and we've talked through this, and we think that we are going to offer the class on the reservation, and he is going to help us lead it. So we'll have some insider connections with that. So we're really excited about it. One of the great things about the Dave Ramsey course is that he is such a dynamic communicator. And he has some of the very best lines. He's a bit of a proverb spinner himself. And I think that if he were around during the time of Solomon, that Solomon probably would have included some of Dave Ramsey's sayings in his collection of the book of Proverbs. Here's some of his classics here. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Without a mission statement, you may get to the top of the ladder and then realize it was leaning against the wrong building. The goal is to not be normal, because normal is broke. And here's my favorite. If you will live like no one else, later you can live and give like no one else. If we modified it slightly, I think I would modify slightly and add an now in there, so it would flow right into our proverb, the proverb that we're looking at this morning, and it would sound something like this: if you live like no one else now, later you can live and give like no one else. Anyone want to try to explain that? What's it mean? Let me repeat it for you, then let's hear what you think it means. If you will live like no one else now, later you can live and give like no one else.
Basically, it means living by your means, not buying a lot of extra things that you don't necessarily need to have, but rather want, so that later on you have more funds to deal with, so that you can do the beneficial things that you want to do for other people.
Okay, good, quite good. Anyone want to add to that? A little nuance in a bit? Well, here's my summary. Here's my key point this morning. If you're using the message guide, this is the kind of the fill-in thing. A wise person disciplines himself to work hard, deferring rewards now, so he can be satisfied later. The wise person disciplines himself now, disciplines himself to work hard now, deferring rewards now, so he can be satisfied later. And if you haven't yet guessed, we are zooming in on Proverbs 6, 6 through 8 this morning. 6, 6 through 8, and I've actually got the collection card for you. So
there he goes again. Wonder.
Let's move these around, and then we're going to read it together.
Where are you going?
Just stay right there.
Yeah. It's like the old Barry Sanders joke. Don't chase him; he'll come back later.
Does everybody have a collection card? You ready? We're going to read it together. Go to the ant, you lazy person. Observe its ways and grow wise.
The ant has no commander, officer, or ruler. Even so, it gets its food in summer,
gathers its provisions at harvest. Now, having read that, I will admit to you that this is one of those situations where I actually prefer the older translations, albeit for probably all the wrong reasons, but I think the older translations are great. For the older translations will render lazy person as a sluggard. Sluggard. Say that word with me, please. Sluggard. Doesn't that sound like a great, doesn't that feel like a great word? It's an old 14th century English word.
Something you don't want to be.
Something that you don't want to be. It's a person who is habitually lazy, is a sluggard. And the sound of the word is so good because it doesn't just mean lazy, but it means slow-moving, lifeless slug. Sluggish. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. It's so much more fun to tell someone that they are a sluggard than to tell them that they are lazy. Thou sluggard. Thou sluggard. And your assignment, by the way, your assignment this week is to use the word sluggard on someone. Maybe even yourself. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Now, I know that many of us are not particularly fond of ants. When I was digging potatoes 2 weeks ago, I inadvertently stuck my hand into a nest of fire ants, and I was stung at least 7 times on my left hand. And you know, when you get fire ant stings, they can really swell up, and they can blister. And I had huge blisters. I still have some leftover blisters on my hand after those fire ant stings. And fire ant stings hurt like hell, because that's why they call them fire ants. Hell ants. I could call them hell ants. I have not been stung this bad since I encountered fire ants in our yard in Texas. But not all ants sting. Most ants do not sting. But all ants are busy ants. You do not see ants lounging around in the sun, basking in the sun. And if you look carefully and if you watch them closely, you'll notice that they are constantly on the move. And they are often moving big loads as well, right? I consulted the biology department at my blessed alma mater in Tempe, and I was told that there are at least 12,000 different ant species in the world. 12,000 different ant species in the world. And I also learned the combined weight of all of the ants in the world is estimated to be equal to the combined weight of all the human beings in the world.
Wow.
That means that there are tens or hundreds of thousands of ants for each one of us. Right? And so now it makes sense, right? No wonder they're always getting into everything. There are a lot of them. And they play a pretty pivotal role in the environment. This is why you want to have ants around you, especially in your yard. You do not want to kill the ants, unless they are fire ants. I would be happy if we put the fire ants on the endangered species list. I think we have 7 different species of fire ants in Arizona. But other ants, they will eat other insects that you don't want to have around. The ants pollinate plants. The ants disperse seeds. The ants move soil. The ants circulate nutrients around. Ants are wonderful, and they are fascinating, and you're sitting on a bunch of them right now. Well, probably not right where you are, but underneath the floor here. They're probably circulating under there. Did you know that ants can carry objects that are 10 to 15 times their body weight?
Yep.
Most of us can't carry anything even near our own body weight. I know I can't. And ants, they can not only lift 10 to 15 times what their body weight is, but they can carry objects that are 10 to 15 times their body weight. The ASU biologist also told me that even though there is a queen ant in each colony, that her role is not what you might expect. Listen to this. It said, despite her size and royal title, the queen doesn't boss the workers around. Instead, workers decide which tasks to perform based on personal preferences, interactions with nest mates, and cues from the environment. They are not so different from how people operate, are they? Except for the people that are sluggards. And it seems that the proverb writer was a very keen observer of nature, and he challenges us, especially those of us that are sluggards, to learn from these little fellas that are all over the place. Go to the ant, you lazy person. Observe its ways and grow wise. The ant has no commander, officer, or ruler. Even so, it gets its food in summer, gathers its provisions at harvest. And in places where there are seasons, they consume massive quantities of food at the harvest time, at the times when it's available, and then they hibernate during the winter time. Did you know ants hibernate? Not in Phoenix, but in in a lot of places. They work hard in the summer, deferring sleep to get everything done that they need to get done, and so they are equipped to live through the winter months. They are self-driven. They're not driven by, there's no slave master that's hanging out over them and telling them you have to get, there's no quotas saying you have to get this much dirt moved in order to become a part, to be a member of good standing in our nest and colony. They work hard now because they are driven to survive later. And the wise person figures out that there are seasons in life. There are times when you have got to be working without pause. And not just because there's somebody that's looking over your shoulders and making sure that you do it, but because it's what actually needs to be done. You figure out that you need to work because it's what needs to be done. That's what maturity looks like. And it's what God wired you to do. It's how God wired you to be. Think about it. When Adam and Eve were placed in the garden, they were placed in the garden as gardeners. Gardening is a very biblical concept. Just want you to know that. They worked and they looked after the garden from day one. If you look at Genesis 2:15, the Lord God took the human and settled him in the Garden of Eden to farm it and to take care of it. It was not until after the fall that the work became a burden. There was work to begin with, but the burden of work didn't come until after the fall, after the sin entered into the world, and it became a pain to do work. So if you look at Genesis 3:17 to 19, to the man he said, "Because you listened to your wife's voice and you ate from the tree that I commanded, you will not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you will eat from it every day of your life. Weeds and thistles will grow for you, even as you eat the field's plants, until you return to the fertile land, since from it you were taken. You are soil, to the soil you will return. Thus, from the beginning, we are hardwired to be working beings, right? That's God's intention. That's how we find fulfillment. That's how we thrive as people if we are doing our work. This is why retirement is such a hard thing for so many people. It's a rough transition for people who have poured themselves into their work so diligently, because we love to work, and unless somehow our wires get crossed along the way and we become sluggards. And the reason that we fall into laziness at times is that work has become hard. Work has at times become painful. And so the wise person, in contrast to the sluggard, the wise person as described in the proverb, the wise person follows the example of the ant. Disciplines himself to work hard, defers rewards now so that he can be satisfied later. And if we somehow miss this fact, we will end up as fools. So, how does someone know if he or she is a sluggard, living on the edge of destruction? I mean, most sluggards are in denial, right? Is that kind of not the nature of it? I mean, the only people I know who claim to be lazy are just making fun of the fact of themselves that they work in an unconventional manner. But the reality is that if you start talking to them and watching them, you figure out that they really do work. You know, and a lot of them work really hard, but they still talk about themselves as being lazy. True sluggards, on the other hand, will deny laziness. Sluggards will say, I'm not lazy. You know, they'll say they work really hard. So how do you know if you are actually a sluggard and someone that needs to hop on it, get going, and figure this stuff out? Well, here are a few potential sluggard characteristics found in various places throughout Proverbs. You ready? First of all, a sluggard resists work. A sluggard resists work. Proverbs 21:25. The desires of the lazy will kill them because their hands refuse to do anything. That is, they do whatever they can to avoid work. They disappear at opportune times. When it's time to load the dishes in the dishwasher, they suddenly hear a calling to do homework. They feign illness. What else do they do? What else will a sluggard do to get out of work?
They sleep. They act like they have a stomachache.
Oh, I got a stomachache. I better go lie down. Yeah.
They procrastinate.
Oh, procrastinate. Yeah. I'll get to it. I mean, I really will.
I'll eventually do it.
I'll eventually do it. Yeah. Yeah. You should see my desk. So secondly, a sluggard gives excuses. A sluggard gives excuses. Proverbs 26:13. A lazy person says, "There's a lion in the path, a lion in the plazas." That is, I can't go to work today because there's some lions out there on the walkway. Or we might translate it in our contemporary vernacular, because there might be a wreck on the road to work. Or traffic might be heavy today, so I can't go to work. Or
Stubbed my toe.
I stubbed my toe. I can't go to work.
There's a haboob coming.
There's a haboob coming. I heard there might be a haboob coming. I can't go to work. You know, I got little cracks in my car window, and you know I need to duct tape it. Yeah. Or it might snow. I can't go to work because it might snow and I don't have it. You know, I wouldn't be prepared for that. Or Or I can't go to work because it's just too dang hot to do any work.
So the ones I didn't the Turkish, they really like to say, oh, I cannot go to work because my aunt is sick.
Yeah.
today."
Oh, I can't go to work because my relative is sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something going on there. Yeah. Welcome back to my other world. So step back and listen to your self-talk. Do you, as you listen to a recording of your own conversations for the day, and if you can, get up on the balcony and look down at yourself and listen to yourself and what you've done for the day, have you been using a lot of excuses in your conversations with people? If you've been using a lot of excuses, that's a sign, a potential sign that you could unknowingly be a sluggard. 3. A sluggard loves sleep. A sluggard loves sleep. Or maybe we should say, a sluggard lives to sleep. Okay, and I know I'm risking it by just mentioning that idea of sleep, and I don't want you to doze off of me on just the power of suggestion. I know how the power of suggestion works. I need to tell you that I actually fell asleep myself when I was putting this section of my notes together on Friday afternoon. Even I sleep through my own sermon.
Yeah.
Proverbs 6, 9 through 10. How long, lazy person, will you lie down? When will you rise from your sleep? A little slumber, a little folding of the arms to lie down. Or Proverbs 26:14. As a door turns on its hinge, so do lazy people in their beds. That's a great proverb, isn't it? 26:14. Turning up. As a door turns on its hinge, so do lazy people in their beds, you sluggards. 4. A sluggard wastes time and energy, but has neither for actual work. A sluggard wastes time and energy, but has neither for actual work. I'd maybe put it, a sluggard has time and energy for Facebook, but is too tired and discouraged to fill out another online job application. Or some of my students would say, well, I was on the computer, and so they'd count that as work. They were in the library on the computer, and I was working really hard, but then when I go and I look at what they were working on, it was MySpace. It was Facebook that they were working on, but that was just, they slipped over there for a minute, and it just got out of control.
Because they have a lot of messages, either Facebook or
Yeah.
my place.
Yeah.
They peaceful communicate with each other.
Yeah. Proverbs 18:9. Those who are lazy in their work are brothers to thugs. Yeah, sluggards and thugs. Proverbs 26:15, and this is the Message version. I like this. A shiftless sluggard puts his fork in the pie, but is too lazy to lift it to his mouth. That's a low energy person.
Can't even eat.
It reminds me of the Wall-E. You remember the movie Wall-E?
Mm-hmm.
Where everyone's all in space and they're all in these carts and they can't even pick themselves up. And
I have a good story about this. In China, we have one old story for talk about the people how they lazy. And one boy in the family, he's very, very lazy. Even the food, he doesn't want to pick up to eat. So one day, his parents went to some other place, maybe not at home for a couple of days. So his parents know he's very lazy. So they make a big bread and hung in his head here. So talk to him. If you're hungry, you eat, you buy it. So, yes, he did. He buy it and only in front of them. And after in front of them, he finished eating, no more food. because he lays to turn around the bread and he can buy it again. So eventually he died in hungry. But when his parents went home and see, he still have a lot of food on his backside. But he's hungry to die eventually.
Or what is it? Is it Burger King that's got these hamburger holders? So you don't have to hold the hamburger up, you just put it in the holder and you can eat it. It's like hands-free telephones, you know, it's got hands-free burgers.
Are you serious?
I'm serious, and I don't know why you guys haven't adopted that yet.
I've been to Pastor Brad, I've been to a lot of Burger Kings and I've never seen that.
I've never seen that.
Maybe they're testing it, yeah. Yeah, it's just it's a fun thing that they're playing with, so. Yeah, so you're driving eat.
It's for people on the go.
For people definitely people on the go.
Non-lazy people.
It's the
Or
non-lazy
maybe it's for
people.
non-lazy people. Yeah,
Well, I mean, they do have the rig to put the harmonica in, you know, I mean.
it's kind of that way, so you can play multiple instruments at once. 5. A sluggard thinks of himself as wiser than most. A sluggard thinks of himself as wiser than most. Proverbs 26:16. Lazy people think that they are wiser than 7 people who answer sensibly. And 7, of course, is a significant number, a number of fullness, a complete number. So when it says 7, it means, you know, a great number of people that are really super excellent top wise. I had not really thought of this before, but arrogance and laziness actually go together. Arrogance and laziness are related. Laziness is a manifestation of arrogance. What do you think? How true is it in your experience? Why might that be true? How are arrogance and laziness related? Anyone want to take a stab at it?
Maybe someone looking for a job. They knew how good I was. They'd be looking for me.
Yeah. I mean, and they probably, I don't want to work for them anyway because they haven't come after me.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And they think, oh, I'm really good because I can persuade people to do something for me. I don't need to do it.
Okay, very good. Yeah. If most or some of these characteristics describe you, it's possible that you are a closet sluggard. Or maybe you are not so out in the closet. Maybe you're out of the closet sluggard. And if you are a sluggard, you are doomed. Because if untreated, sluggardness is most often fatal. Proverbs 6:11. And poverty will come on you like a prowler, destitution like a warrior. If you are a sluggard, you will take a dive. So what can we do? Well, what can you do if you have one or some of these characteristics of people that are suffering from sluggardness? How do we deal with this? First of all, my number one suggestion is go to the doctor. I'm kind of lazy and I tend to look for the easy answers first. Go to the doctor. It's always possible that the symptoms are physiological, or the problem is physiological. So if you're running on super low energy, get it checked out to see if there's some medical issue as to why you are lazy. Then secondly, once a doctor clears you, and the chances are good the doctor will clear you, go to the ant. Go to the ant. As the proverb recommends, observe the pattern in nature and let that sink in. You are not an exception to the laws of nature. And if you think that you are an exception to the laws of nature that you are observing in the ant, you are an arrogant fool. Number 3, go to the Proverbs. Go to the Proverbs. Immerse yourself in Proverbs. If you read a chapter of Proverbs every day, and if you chew on those Proverbs all day long, there is no way that you can maintain a sluggardly lifestyle. You can't. The disconnect will tear you apart. It just will not work, so to speak. Or, go to the Savior. Go to the Savior. This whole thing is about acquiring wisdom, isn't it? And the good news is that wisdom is not just some kind of abstract philosophical concept, but it is both practical and it is also personal. Jesus is wisdom in person. And while these proverbs are helpful in that they show us what wisdom looks like, and they alert us to areas of our lives where we need some more wisdom, the fact is the only way to embrace wisdom in its fullness is to embrace Jesus, the Son of God, who lived the perfectly wise life, who died to break the back of foolishness, and to empower us to live truly wise lives. And as we embrace Jesus, or receive His embrace, as we follow where He leads, wisdom comes to us as a part of the package. When you receive Jesus, you are receiving wisdom, if you will accept it. Now the sluggard isn't so much the person who takes the path of least energy and who refuses to defer pleasure, the person who ignores the ant. Rather, the sluggard is the person who will not follow Jesus. Maybe they've accepted Christ, maybe they've received Christ in some way, but honestly, if you are really following Him, you are working with Him. You can't be sluggardly and follow Him because it just doesn't work together. You see, our work is His work. It's our true work. It's our great calling to follow Jesus and to share together in His work. The work that He's doing through us, the work that we cannot really do ourselves anyway. It's just not possible. But only through Him who transforms us, changes us, and He saves us from sluggardly lives. And indeed, that is the good news for sluggards.